Alright guys, check this out. I have my Mossberg MVP here, and I've had this thing a couple of times on the channel. I showed you guys my budget build where I did groups with this with the cheapest ammo, and I'll show a little clip here. And then this, I had it also on the channel when I did the semi-automatic versus bolt action. So in my videos, I referenced this as a 16-inch barrel, but it's actually an 18-inch barrel after I realized my mistake. And I was able to take advantage of the MDT Black Friday sale and pick up one of the Oryx chassis for this thing. So this rifle, MVP by Mossberg, doesn't have a lot of options as far as upgrading the chassis. But MDT came through with this Oryx chassis. So first step to upgrading this Mossberg is I'm going to take off this cheap Simmons Walmart scope. Throw this sucker in the trash. Next, we're going to take off this cheap laminate stock. We're going to throw this sucker in the trash. Alright, so next up, I need to go ahead and I picked up an Arca rail for this Oryx chassis. Go check them out on the MDT website. This is actually a very budget friendly build, and you get a lot for your money here. So I'm going to install this Arca rail onto the chassis. There's a bolt here on the front you need to go ahead and put in while you got the barreled action out of the chassis. This rail just M-locks to the bottom of the chassis. It's custom fit for the Oryx chassis. I'm gonna go ahead and get one of these M-locks tightened up a little bit. Alright, I just snugged it down a little bit until I can get the nut on the back of this first bolt up here in the front. So on these M-locks, I usually do torque to about 30 foot-pounds. Alright, now that we got the Arca rail attached. So when these first came out, they was all green. But I'm really digging the color options they have now. This black one really made the chassis flow and look a lot more expensive than it really is. So next up is we're going to install the barreled action. we have to take off the action bolts. I really appreciate that MDT includes these plastic nuts to keep the bolts where they need to go. And whenever I put the old stock in storage, I can go ahead and put these nuts on the old one so that I don't lose the action bolts. Alright, so barrel action. I haven't got an upgraded trigger for this, but I've been looking at them. And Timney makes them. And then there's a company called Jard. But I'd like to put a upgraded trigger in this thing eventually. Alright, so the action just fits down in there. What I normally like to do is just start the bolts, and then I'll stand it up on its end. Make sure that the recoil lug is fit flush against the chassis, and then I'm going to go ahead and tighten it up. So that was 30. On these MDT chassis, I normally do my action bolts at 60 foot-pounds. There's 60. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back down to 30 before I forget. Don't want to over torque my scope. Alright, so there's a... So one thing, this action was never the smoothest. But I felt like the chassis makes the action quite a bit smoother. I don't know if it's because the old stock would rub on the bolt, or if maybe the old stock was twisted a little bit and putting some pressure on the action itself. But the action seems to be way smoother in a chassis. Let me grab a bipod to put on this. So MDT also makes an Oryx bipod for this chassis. But since I put the Arca rail, I'm just going to go ahead and run my MDT ground pod. Alright, check that thing out. She's looking good. So this scope is an AccuFire. And it is 2.5 to 20 power. It's actually pretty good. I picked this up off the prize table at a match. Just thank you, AccuFire, for supporting this sport. But it's an AccuFire Astro 20. And this scope has bounced around from a bunch of different builds. It's kind of my intermediate scope while I'm waiting on getting a different one. Let me go ahead and turn that around so I can get to the screws. Like I said before, I normally do 30. These are the Vortex Rings, and they have the pound on the ring itself, so you don't have to look up the specs. It says right there 30 foot-pounds, 30 inch-pounds. I think I've been saying foot-pounds the whole time. So also on this build, I'm going to go ahead and throw a muzzle brake on it. 223 doesn't need a muzzle brake, but I had one just laying around from my old AR-15 build. It just improves the recoil feel, especially on this lighter weight. Speaking of weight, the original rifle was 7.5 pounds. The original setup was 7.5 pounds. Alright, so I got all that on there. I'm gonna weigh this and see what it. But one thing you notice, the scope rings seem a little high. They're not really. You have an adjustable cheek to raise it up so you can see. Another thing, on some guns you have rails on the front, so you need to clear that rail. Also, you don't want to be hitting your scope with your action. On that other scope, it actually would touch the scope on that Simmons. So now I've got a little bit more room for the action. Definitely need to upgrade this trigger. But that's it. Let me get the weight for you real quick. Alright, so I just got the weight for you. This thing is coming in at 12 pounds with the bipod and 11 pounds without the bipod. So it's just pushing the weight of a heavy hunting rifle, but it's not near the weight of competition rifles yet. So it's intermediate. This rifle might become a good rifle for Olivia to start shooting matches with. Also be a good rifle for training. Alright, so that concludes my video on installation of the Oryx chassis on the Mossberg MVP. Go ahead and hit that subscribe. Follow me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. My channel is growing. So the growth allows me to do stuff like this. So go support the channel.